My Ghostwriter, produced by Timothy Robertson, a work of art created by Cath Colton-Rhoads. Title, Whispers Through Time. Chapter 1, The Veil Thins. In the mystical expanse of the Irish countryside, where the land whispers secrets of old, the village of Ardmore nestled like a gem cradled by the hills. Here, the veil between the mundane and mystical was not just thin but palpably alive, breathing with the rhythms of the earth and the ancient dance of the Seedi, the fairies of lore. At twilight, the air shimmered with a magic so raw, even the staunchest of disbelievers could sense the echo of the otherworldly. In this bastion of the ancient ways, Sarah McCrory lived, a woman who seemed to embody the spirit of Ardmore itself. Her wild red curls were a testament to the fire in her heart, while her caring green eyes reflected the depth of the land's secrets, which she alone seemed privy to. Her home, a cozy cottage at the edge of the village, served as a threshold to the realms beyond, thanks in no small part to her lineage and her open heart. Sarah's life was intertwined with the Seedi in ways the villagers could only whisper about. But it was her children, Clodagh and Alfie, who added the brightest colors to her existence. Clodagh, with her inquisitive 7-year-old mind, followed her mother's teachings like a young sapling reaching for the sunlight. And Alfie, though but 4, had an aura of the mystic about him, his laughter able to stir the air itself, as if calling to the unseen. Their life, though peaceful, was not untouched by the whispers of change. It was an evening like any other, with the sunset painting hues of gold and crimson across the sky, when Sarah felt a shift in the air. The fairy realm was speaking to her, more insistent than ever. As she tended her garden, the place where the veil felt almost non-existent, a breeze caressed her cheek, carrying a message that chilled her to the bone. Change comes with the moon, the whisper seemed to say, a foreboding sense of urgency entwined with the words. Sarah paused, her hands stilled amidst the herbs she so lovingly cared for. This was no ordinary message, but a warning, one that spoke of trials and tests not just for her, but for Ardmore itself. With a heavy heart, she gathered her children, Clodagh's hand in one of hers, Alfie riding on her hip, and retreated indoors. The fire was kindled, casting shadows that danced like the stories of old, stories that Sarah knew were more than mere tales. They were warnings, lessons, and perhaps in times like these, a guide. As twilight deepened, Sarah looked upon Clodagh and Alfie, her resolve hardening. The Seedi had always been allies, protectors, and sometimes, when the balance was threatened, messengers of change. Whatever the morrow brought, she knew they faced it together, as a family bonded not just by blood, but by their unique connection to the fairy realm. Clodagh, sensing her mother's unease, nestled closer, her eyes wide with unasked questions. And Alfie, ever sensitive to the shifts in the air, yawned and rested his head against Sarah's chest, a silent testament to the trust he placed in her. Sarah whispered stories of the Seedi into the night, stories of courage, of magic, and of the thin veil that separated their worlds. In her voice was the strength of generations, a bridge to the past, and a beacon for the future. Her tales were not just a lullaby, but a promise that no matter what shadows the morrow brought, they would face them with the light of their bond and the ancient wisdom of the Seedi guiding their way. The night wrapped around the McCrory household like a cloak, the fire's glow a beacon against the encroaching darkness. And in the heart of the village, both seen and unseen eyes watched and waited, for the veil was thinning, and with it the path to the future was unfolding, winding and shadowed, yet alight with the sparks of change. Chapter 2, An Unlikely Scholar. The morning mist clung to the rolling hills of Ardmore like a shroud, the sun's timid rays struggling to pierce through as the village stirred to life. Amidst the familiar rhythm of clucking hens and the blacksmith's hammer greeting the day, an unfamiliar figure made his approach along the winding path that cut through the emerald tapestry. James O'Connor, with his neatly trimmed beard and spectacles perched precariously on the bridge of his nose, appeared as a stark contrast against the rugged beauty of the Irish countryside. Clad in a tweed suit that seemed too formal for the dewy morning, he carried the awkwardness of a city dweller unaccustomed to the untamed charm of rural life. Yet, his eyes, a keen shade of blue, sparkled with the unmistakable glint of curiosity as he beheld Ardmore sprawled before him like a scene from the tales he'd devoured since childhood. James was a scholar from Dublin, a city where progress steamrolled over tradition and fairy tales were relegated to the nursery. His fascination with the fairy realm, however, had led him here, driven by a desire to peel back the layers of myth and unearth the truth nestled within. Skepticism was his trade, yet beneath it lurked a hope, however faint, that the world held wonders yet to be explained. Arriving at the heart of the village, James sought out the McCrory household, guided by whispers of Sarah's unique bond with the fairy realm. The cottage, nestled at the edge of a lush grove, seemed to pulse with an energy that set his scientific mind at odds with the stirrings of his heart. As he hesitated at the gate, Clodagh appeared, her red curls a vibrant echo of her mother's, and her green eyes wide with curiosity. "Are you here for the fairies?" she asked, an innocent directness in her voice that took James aback. "I am here to learn," James replied, adjusting his spectacles as if they were the shield against the child's unsettling insight. "Your mother, is she home?" Clodagh nodded, a smile dancing on her lips as she took his hand and led him through the garden, where wildflowers whispered secrets not meant for mortal ears. Sarah emerged from the shadows, her presence commanding yet reassuring, the embodiment of the land's ancient spirit. Sarah's first glimpse of James filled her with a sense of trepidation. His city demeanor and the skepticism that seemed to cloak him like a second skin were forces she'd anticipated, yet now faced with them, her resolve wavered. The fairy's warning echoed in her mind, a reminder of the delicate balance she trod between her world and the one just beyond sight. "The fairies are not a subject for academic conquest," Sarah stated, her voice measured, betraying none of the conflict that churned within. "They are a part of us, of this land. You seek to define them with your reason, but some truths are felt rather than explained." James met her gaze, struck by the conviction in her eyes, a stark contrast to the empirical world he knew. "Perhaps," he conceded, "but understanding begins with observation, with questions. I seek only to learn, not to disrupt." Their conversation, laced with an undercurrent of mutual fascination and unspoken challenges, set the stage for an unlikely alliance. Sarah, guided by a sense of duty to the fairies and her village, agreed to share her knowledge, provided James approached with respect and an open heart. As the day waned and shadows danced with the fading light, Sarah introduced James to the edge of the grove, where the veil between worlds grew thin. His skepticism, so firmly rooted, began to fray as the evening air shimmered with a presence that defied logic. James's journal, once a testament to the empirical and the observable, became a record of questions that challenged the very foundation of his beliefs. Clodagh's laughter, infused with the innocence of belief, and Sarah's stories, woven from the threads of tradition and personal conviction, nudged the doors of his perception ajar, revealing a sliver of the vast unknown that lay beyond. As he departed that evening, the whispers of the grove caressing his departure, James realized that Ardmore, with its mystical landscapes and guardians of old secrets, had entwined its way into his quest for knowledge. And at the heart of it all stood Sarah, a woman who defied the confines of his logic, beckoning him to journey beyond the veil of skepticism and witness the enchantment of a world where fairies danced in the twilight. Chapter 2, An Unlikely Scholar, thus closed on a note of burgeoning curiosity, with the paths of the rational and the mystical converging in the form of an academic from Dublin and a woman attuned to the whispers through time. In this unexpected meeting, the seeds of change were sown, promising a harvest of revelations and perhaps a bridge between worlds long considered irreconcilable. Chapter 3, Secrets of the Sidhe. In the hushed pre-dawn light, as tendrils of mist wove through the emerald expanse of Ardmore, Alfie McCrory ventured beyond the warmth of his mother's cottage. Guided by a sense of adventure that belied his tender 4 years, Alfie found himself drawn to the grove that skirted their home, a place where the air thrummed with unseen life. As if beckoned by whispers known only to his heart, he slipped between the trees, his small hands brushing against the dew-laden leaves, each touch a wordless greeting to the natural world. It was here, beneath the canopy of ancient oaks, that the veil between worlds shimmered, parting slightly under the watchful gaze of the dawn. Alfie, with the unguarded openness of childhood, gazed into the rift, his blue eyes wide with wonder. The sight that met him was one of extraordinary beauty, a glade bathed in ethereal light, where figures of light and shadow danced with a grace that defied the earthly realm. Among them, a figure beckoned to Alfie, its features blurred, yet its intention clear, a silent invitation to witness the secrets of the city. Back in the village, Sarah McCrory wrestled with the mounting tension that seemed to grip Ardmore. The crops, once bountiful, now struggled under a blight no hand could cure, and the whispers among the villagers spoke of fairy displeasure. Sarah felt the weight of their gazes, the unspoken expectation for her to bridge the growing chasm between the human and fairy realms. Yet, the fairies' messages had grown cryptic, their warnings like puzzles she couldn't solve alone. James O'Connor, the skeptic from Dublin, found himself inexplicably drawn to the rhythms of village life, his days spent between the McCrory cottage and the grove, where rational thought seemed to fray at the edges. It was during a twilight stroll, as he pondered the complexities of belief and evidence, that James witnessed the inexplicable, a murmuration of birds, swirling in patterns that pulsed with an otherworldly energy, coalescing into symbols that spoke of old, forgotten languages. The event unsettled James, stirring a tempest of doubt and fascination within him. That night, sharing the tale with Sarah and her children, he saw a flicker of something ancient spark in her eyes, a knowing that urged him to question the foundation of his skepticism. Alfie, returned from his dawn adventure, spoke animatedly of the Vla dance he'd seen, his words painting a vivid tapestry that blurred the lines between imagination and truth. Sarah listened, her heart caught between fear and pride. The fairies had shown her son a glimpse of their world, a sign of trust or a warning. She couldn't be sure. As the village convulsed with whispers of fairy curses, Sarah attempted to soothe the rising fear with words of harmony and respect for the old ways. Amidst this, James found himself at a crossroads of belief, his scientific mind grappling with the undeniable magic that danced at the peripheries of his understanding. The tension in Ardmore reached its zenith during a gathering at the village center, where cries for retribution against the supposed fairy wrath were loud. Sarah, with Alfie and Clodagh by her side, stood firm, her voice a beacon of reason in the maelstrom of fear. James, moved by the courage she displayed and the undeniable evidence of the fantastical he had witnessed, stepped forward to stand with them, his presence a silent testament to his evolving journey from disbelief to wonder. As evening fell upon a village divided yet undeniably enchanted, Sarah, James, Clodagh, and Alfie returned to the cottage, the events of the day weaving a complex tapestry of loyalty, fear, and the pursuit of understanding. Sarah gazed out at the dusky horizon, a resolve stealing within her. The fairies' secrets, manifested through Alfie's innocent exploration, were a key, she realized, not just to mending the rift in Ardmore, but to guiding James O'Connor across the threshold of skepticism into a world where magic and logic coexisted. In Secrets of the City, alliances were forged under the banner of the unseen, setting the stage for a journey that would challenge the very essence of belief, family, and the fight to preserve a world that balanced precariously on the edge of change. Chapter 4: The Heart's Whisper. As the seasons turned their wheel, bringing the crisp scent of autumn to the air, the village of Ardmore seemed to hold its breath, caught between the enchantment of change and the comfort of tradition. In the heart of this balance stood Sarah McCrory's cottage, where life's complexities were woven into the laughter and whispers of two worlds, seen and unseen. James O'Connor, the scholar who had arrived with a heart armored by skepticism, found himself increasingly drawn into the McCrory family's orbit. The more time he spent with Sarah and her children, the more the fabric of his reality softened, allowing the light of understanding and wonder to pierce through. His initial curiosity about the fairy realm transformed into a quest not just for knowledge, but for the warmth that emanated from the hearth of the McCrory home, a warmth that had begun to melt the frost from his own heart. Sarah noticed the change in James, a shift that both intrigued and unnerved her. The once sharp edges of his disbelief seemed dulled, replaced by a genuine interest in the stories and practices that had shaped her life and that of the village. Their conversations, once a battlefield of wit and skepticism, now flowed like a gentle stream, meandering through topics of lore, life, and the fragile beauty of existence. Yet within Sarah, a battle raged, a tumult of emotions that whispered of possibilities she had dared not entertain since the loss of her beloved husband. Clodagh, ever perceptive, became the bridge over which Sarah and James traveled toward one another. With the guileless wisdom only a child possesses, she shared observations and questions that sparked thoughtful exchanges between the adults. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Clodagh's voice danced in the air. "Mama, do fairies fall in love?" Her question, innocent yet profound, hung like a specter over the room. James watched Sarah, awaiting her response, and in that moment, a shared glance conveyed the burgeoning depth of their connection. Sarah found herself caught in the tumult of her own heart's whisper. The comfort and companionship James offered were like a balm, yet the notion of allowing herself to feel for another was akin to betraying the memory of her late husband. The fairies, who had always guided her, now remained silent on this matter, leaving Sarah to navigate the contours of her own heart. As autumn deepened, casting golden hues over Ardmore, the bond between James and the McCrory family grew. He became a fixture in their daily lives, his presence no longer that of an outsider, but of one who had found an unexpected home. Yet for Sarah, each smile, each shared moment with James was a step on a path she feared to travel. The village, with its keen eye for change, watched this unfolding with a mix of curiosity and caution. Whispers of Sarah McCrory's new happiness twined through the streets, mingling with the rustle of leaves and the ever-present whispers of the seedy. For in Ardmore, the movements of the heart and the stirrings of the unseen world were threads of the same tapestry, inseparable and potent. One crisp evening, as twilight painted shadows across the cottage walls, James found the courage to voice the question that had been haunting him. "Sarah," he began, his voice a mere whisper against the backdrop of the flickering fire, "have we found something here? Something beyond the quest for knowledge?" Sarah, her emerald eyes reflecting the flames, felt the walls she had erected around her heart tremble. The fear of betrayal, the grief that had been her constant companion, seemed to pale in the face of the sincerity in James's gaze. Yet she hesitated, caught between the past's gentle pull and the future's whispering promise. In that moment, Clodagh, with the unerring instinct of a child who knows when hearts are at a crossroads, took her mother's hand and placed it in James's. "Mama," she said, her voice steady and sure, the fairies' whisper of happiness, too. The simplicity of the gesture, the purity of the intention, bridged the chasm of Sarah's fears. Slowly, a quiet acceptance began to bloom within her, an acknowledgement of the whispered truths of the heart, that perhaps it was time to listen to the magic woven not just in the mystical, but in the mundanity of love reborn. The heart's whisper thus turned a page in the lives of those entwined with Ardmore's fate, weaving a delicate tale of loss, love, and the courage to embrace the unseen pathways of the heart. In a world where magic danced cheek to cheek with reality, Sarah McCrory found herself at the cusp of a new journey, guided by the whispers of time and the silent songs of the heart. Chapter 5. Prophecy of Shadows. In the dappling shadows of Ardmore, where whispers of ancient magic threaded through the veils of reality, the McCrory homestead stood as a beacon of mysterious allure. The evening danced on the edge of twilight, casting the world into a realm of dusky indistinction, where truths intertwined with the murmurs of the old ways. It was here, amid the seamless blend of shadow and light, that Alfie brought forth a message that chilled Sarah McCrory to her very soul. "Mother," Alfie's voice trembled as he recounted the words of the Sihe, his wide eyes reflecting the flicker of candlelight. "The shadows stretch forth. The roots shall shiver, and the village beneath the moon's dark glare shall quiver," he whispered, a rhyme that echoed the weight of impending doom. The prophecy, delivered through the innocent vessel of Alfie's dreams, pointed to a disaster that threatened not just their family, but the entirety of Ardmore. As Sarah absorbed the gravity of the fairies' warning, her mind raced through the lore of her ancestors, seeking a kernel of wisdom that might illuminate their shadowed path. Her resolve crystallized in the dim light. She would seek the counsel of the village elders, keepers of that forgotten knowledge and guardians of the lore that bridged worlds. James O'Connor, having witnessed Alfie's troubled recounting, found his skepticism crumbling in the face of undeniable foresight. The academic in him clamored for rational explanations, yet the surreal events unfolding around him compelled a shift in his worldview. With a decision that marked the turning point in his journey, James offered his support to Sarah. "I will stay," he declared, his voice embodying a newfound determination. "Whatever this prophecy foretells, we'll face it together." The following morning dawned with a palpable tension that wove through the village streets like a foreboding mist. Sarah, accompanied by James, Clodagh, and a reluctant Alfie, ventured to the heart of Ardmore to convene with the elders. They gathered in the shadow of the ancient stone circle that had borne witness to generations of whispered pacts and fairy rites, a site where the veil lay thinnest, and the air thrummed with unseen power. The elders, shrouded in the dignity of their age and wisdom, listened with furrowed brows as Sarah relayed Alfie's ominous message. Murmurs of concern blended with the rustle of leaves, a natural chorus that underscored the urgency of the moment. After a silence that stretched like the shadows at dusk, the eldest among them, a woman whose eyes held the depth of Ardmore's history, spoke with a voice laced with the resonance of the earth itself. "The prophecy speaks of an ancient rite, forgotten by most, but etched in the memory of this land," she began, her gaze piercing the morning haze. "A rite that can appease the Sidae, mend the fraying threads of our bond, and avert the looming disaster." Sarah's heart quickened. The path forward was fraught with uncertainty, yet the determination to safeguard her community and her family bolstered her spirit. "Tell us of this rite. Whatever it requires, we will embark upon it," she asserted, her voice a beacon of strength amidst the gathering storm of doubt. As the elders whispered amongst themselves, Sarah turned to James, Clodagh, and Alfie. In their faces, she saw a mirrored amalgam of fear and fortitude, the delicate balance that had long defined the lives of those who tread the line between the mystical and the mundane. The elders detailed the rite, a ceremony that necessitated the convergence of the village at the stone circle under the cloak of the coming new moon. Key to its success was an offering, a token of unity and sacrifice, drawn from the heart of Ardmore itself. As they departed, Sarah mulled over the elders' words, a plan beginning to coalesce in her mind. Beside her, James walked in silent contemplation, his skepticism a distant memory against the palpable reality of magic and prophecy. Clodagh took her mother's hand, a silent pillar of strength and innocence, while Alfie, with a newfound sense of purpose, gazed at the path ahead, his fear overshadowed by the unspoken bond that tethered their fates. In the shadow of prophecy, the McCrory family in the village of Ardmore stood on the cusp of a journey that would test their unity, courage, and the very fabric of their beliefs. The prophecy of shadows, as it would come to be known, was not just a harbinger of potential ruin, but a call to arms, a challenge to face the encroaching darkness with the light of old bonds and newfound allegiances. The stage was set, the players assembled, and as the wheel of fate continued its inexorable turn, Sarah McCrory found herself leading the charge against the tide of shadows, her heart ablaze with the fire of ancient whispers and the promise of a dawn yet to break. Chapter 6. The Unseen War. The dawn broke with a sigh over Ardmore, painting the dew-laden fields with a golden hue that belied the unease simmering beneath the village's calm exterior. A mysterious blight had spread with alarming speed, its shadow falling over both the lush pastures and the once fruitful crops with a voraciousness that left the villagers whispering of curses and fairy retribution. It was within this atmosphere of growing despair that Sarah McCrory found herself grappling with the weight of a prophecy, its ominous words echoing in her heart as she sought a path to salvation. In the cool embrace of her cottage kitchen, Sarah pored over ancient texts and whispered consultations with the last of the village elders who remembered the old rites. James, whose skepticism had waned in the face of undeniable reality, stood by her side, his analytical mind piecing together the fragments of lore and ritual that might hold the key to appeasing the Sidae. Meanwhile, Clodagh and Alfie, keenly aware of the crisis enveloping their world, wove a tapestry of hope with their unwavering belief in the power of unity and the ancient bonds that linked their family to the mystical forces of Ardmore. Clodagh, with a child's insight, drew pictures of the village encircled in light, her vivid imagination casting a spell of hope that even the adults could not resist. Alfie, quieter, clung to his mother's side, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination as he absorbed the gravity of their situation. The key to the forgotten ritual, as revealed by the thinnest whispers from the fairy realm and the crumbling parchments of the elders, was a unity of purpose, a gathering of the village at the ancient stone circle under the cloak of the new moon. It required, the text said, an offering born of the land, a symbol of harmony between the human and fairy realms. Sarah, with James's aid, uncovered the tale of the last offering made, a rare bloom known to grow in the heart of the fairy groves, a place few dared enter and even fewer returned from. It was a task fraught with peril, yet Sarah knew in her heart that it was their only hope. She resolved to seek this bloom, guided by the ancient markers known only to her through the secrets passed down by her ancestors. As the day of the new moon approached, the village found itself divided between fear and faith. Some whispered that to provoke the fairies further was madness. Others believed fervently in the power of the old ways to restore balance. It was Sarah's impassioned plea, echoed by James's newfound belief in the unseen, that swayed the village. They agreed to gather at the stone circle, each person contributing a small token of their lives to create a mosaic of unity and respect for the natural world. On the eve of the ritual, the air in Ardmore was charged with a tangible sense of anticipation and dread. Clodagh, holding her mother's hand tightly, whispered of the fairies' watchful eyes and of her dreams of a village wrapped in the warm embrace of light. Alfie, sensing the enormity of the moment, stayed close to James, the man who had become an unexpected anchor in the storm that faced their family. As night fell, the villagers, led by Sarah and James, made their way to the stone circle, their path lit by the soft glow of torches that cast elongated shadows on the ancient stones. In the heart of the circle, surrounded by the whispered prayers of her community, Sarah placed the rare bloom, an offering of peace and a plea for mercy. The ritual, a blend of spoken oaths to honor the fairy realm and protect the land, culminated in a silent moment of collective hope. Sarah, standing at the center, felt the weight of her ancestors' legacy upon her shoulders as she called out to the Sithe, her voice a blend of strength and vulnerability. As the final words of the ritual dissolved into the night, a hush fell over the gathered crowd. The air shimmered, the veil thinning as if in response to their plea. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for a sign, a whisper of acceptance or rejection from the fairies. Then, from the depths of the grove, a light flickered, soft and gentle, yet unmistakably otherworldly. It danced, growing in intensity, until it enveloped the stone circle in a warm glow that spoke of ancient magics and the rekindling of a bond long strained but never broken. In that moment, Sarah knew their offering had been accepted. The village had come together, bridging the gap between fear and faith, to face the unseen war that had threatened to unravel the very fabric of their world. The relief and joy that surged through Ardmore were palpable, a testament to the power of unity and the enduring magic that bound their lives to the mystical realm. As they made their way back to the village, the first hints of dawn tinting the sky with the promise of a new beginning, Sarah glanced at James, Clodagh, and Alfie. Their journey through the shadow of prophecy had brought them to a place of understanding and love, a realization that hope, no matter how fragile, could illuminate the darkest of times. Chapter 6. The Unseen War closed not with an end, but a beginning. The rebirth of Ardmore's pact with the fairy realm and the dawning of a deeper unity within the village. Sarah McCrory, once a solitary guardian of ancient whispers, now stood at the heart of a community bound by the invisible threads of belief, love, and a newfound respect for the whispers through time. Chapter 7. Crossing the Threshold. As the day of the ritual drew near, Ardmore found itself enveloped in a flurry of preparation not seen for generations. The village, typically divided by the mundane trivialities of daily life, now united with a singular purpose fueling their actions. It was an amalgamation of hope and desperation, a collective breath held against the encroaching shadows foretold by the prophecy. Sarah McCrory stood at the heart of this storm, her resolve a beacon guiding her people toward a dawn veiled in uncertainty. In the midst of these preparations, Sarah found herself pulled aside by Clodagh, whose youthful intuition had perceived the silent burdens her mother shouldered. "Mama, the fairies whisper of bravery," Clodagh said, her gaze piercing the veil of worry that shrouded Sarah's heart. It was a moment of raw clarity, bridging the gap between them with a simplicity that belied the depth of understanding it conveyed. Sarah embraced her daughter, a silent acknowledgement of the courage they both needed as they approached the threshold of fate. The night before the ritual, the village gathered at the McCrory cottage, a constellation of souls seeking solace in unity. It was here, under the cloak of twilight, that James sought out Sarah, drawn by a force stronger than the mysteries that had once captivated his skepticism. Their moment of vulnerability unfolded away from the prying eyes of the village, amidst the sacred groves that had borne witness to the silent whispers of the city. "Sarah," James began, his voice a mere whisper against the symphony of the night, "I cannot promise a future unmarred by shadows, but I can promise you this: my heart, my courage, they are yours, if you'll have them." It was a confession born from the crucible of shared trials, a testament to a love that had quietly taken root amidst the chaos that threatened to engulf them. Sarah, for whom love had once seemed a chapter closed by the cruel hand of fate, found herself standing on the precipice of a choice. The memory of her late husband, a love that had defined her youth, now mingled with the promise of a new dawn in James's eyes. "James," she replied, her voice steady yet laden with the weight of her fears and hopes, "to step into the unknown, guided by the heart, it's a leap of faith I never thought I'd dare to take again." In his embrace, Sarah found the strength to face the coming day, not just as a guardian of ancient secrets, but as a woman wholeheartedly alive to the possibilities of the heart. The morning of the ritual broke with a heavy mist, the landscape a motte, shrouded canvas awaiting the first stroke of dawn's light. The village, united in purpose, made their way to the ancient stone circle that had silently watched over Ardmore for millennia. At its heart, under the gaze of the rising sun, stood Sarah, the embodiment of the bridge between worlds, her determination kindling the flickering flame of hope in the hearts around her. Yet, as the ritual commenced, a palpable tension threaded through the air, the weight of expectation pressing down on every soul present. The ancient rites, spoken in the tongue of the old ones, seemed to hang suspended in the mist, a plea to the unseen. As the final words whispered into the dawn, silence fell, a holding of the world's breath. In that moment of weighted silence, the ritual demanded its price, a personal sacrifice from Sarah, a testament to her willingness to bear the mantle of her ancestors. With trembling hands, Sarah removed her wedding band, a symbol of a love lost yet cherished, and offered it to the flame. It was a gesture that spoke of her acceptance of the past and her readiness to embrace the future, whatever it may hold. As the band melted, consumed by the ritual's fire, a luminous figure emerged from the grove, its form both alien and familiar. The ancestral fairy, a guardian of the McCrory lineage, stepped forth, its presence a shining beacon amidst the shadows. With a voice that resonated through the very bones of the earth, it spoke. "Sarah McCrory, daughter of the land, your sacrifice is accepted. The balance is restored." In the heart of Ardmore, under the watchful eyes of history and the hopeful gaze of its people, Sarah crossed the threshold. She had fulfilled her role as the bridge between worlds, not just by the rite of ancient ceremonies, but through the strength of her heart's unwavering light. The village, once teetering on the brink of despair, now basked in the promise of renewal, the shadows of prophecy dispelled by the dawn of unity and sacrifice. Chapter 7, Crossing the Threshold, thus closed on a note of harmony reclaimed, with Sarah McCrory emerging not just as a guardian of ancient secrets, but as a beacon of love, courage, and hope. In the tapestry of whispers through time, her journey intertwines with the elemental forces of nature and the enduring power of the human heart, a symphony of change that resonates through the ages. Chapter 8, Night of Revelations. The night of the ritual was upon them. Ardmore throbbed with a palpable sense of anticipation, its air pregnant with whispers of old and expectant gazes. Sarah McCrory, clad in a simple gown that whispered of tradition and the profound mantles she bore, stood at the heart of the ancient stone circle, her fiery curls a stark torch against the night's embrace. Beside her, James, his skepticism a long-forgotten shadow, lent his presence as a pillar of support, a beacon of the unlikely unity that had blossomed in crisis. As the moon rode high, shrouded in a veil of gossamer clouds, the villagers, encircling the stones, offered their silent prayers to the unseen. Clodagh, with Alfie's hand gripped in hers, watched with wide eyes, their innocent faith a luminescent thread weaving through the tapestry of the moment. At Sarah's signal, the ritual commenced. Words of ancient fidelity and respect floated up, carried on the winds of Ardmore, seeking the approval of the Sire. The air shimmered, ethereal and charged, as if the very fabric of the world awaited the judgment of the unseen. It was then, amidst the heart-stopping silence, that James turned to Sarah, his voice barely a whisper. "Whatever happens, know this, my heart has found its home with you." The confession, raw and sincere, unfurled a warmth through Sarah, battling back the night's chill. In his eyes, she saw not just the promise of tomorrow, but the culmination of every whispered hope that had fluttered in her heart. Just as Sarah parted her lips to speak, a thrumming beneath their feet heralded the arrival. From the shadowed grove emerged a figure of light, an ancestral fairy so radiant, so achingly familiar, that a collective gasp rose from the village. Clad in the luminance of the fairy realm, it approached Sarah, its gaze ancient and profound. "Sarah McCrory," it spoke, its voice the symphony of the forest, the whisper of the stream. "Daughter of change, your love, your sacrifice, has been the beacon in this night. Long has our realm watched over Ardmore, and long have we seen the bridges crumble between our worlds." The ancestral fairy turned its gaze upon the gathered villagers, then back to Sarah. "Tonight, we restore the bridge with a bond anew. But know this, the paths of the heart are the truest roads to unity. Your love, Sarah, the love that blossoms in the face of uncertainty, is the key." With a gesture, the fairy's light intensified, weaving around Sarah and James, enveloping them in a glow so pure, so profound, that tears sprang unbidden to the eyes of those who bore witness. When the light receded, the air held a clarity, a freshness that spoke of renewed pacts and restored balances. As the villagers erupted into relieved cheers, Sarah and James remained locked in an embrace that was both a beginning and a homecoming. Clodagh, pulling Alfie along, surged forward, her laughter a melody of joy and relief. They were a family knit not just by blood, but by destiny, a unit forged in the crucible of trials and strengthened by the acceptance of the unseen. The night of revelations had not only marked the bridging of realms, but the blossoming of a love that transcended the boundaries between the mundane and the magical. As Sarah gazed into James's eyes, the village of Ardmore, bathed in the ethereal afterglow, stood as a testament to the enduring power of belief, unity, and the whispers of the heart that weave through time. In the days to come, the villagers would speak of the night when the veil thinned and old bonds were renewed. They would speak of Sarah McCrory, the bridge, and the outsider who stepped through shadows into love. But above all, they would remember the whisper of the ancestral fairy, a reminder that in the heart of Ardmore, the dance between the mystical and the mortal, guided by love, would forever continue. And so, under the canopy of stars, with the whispers of the Sire like a chorus, the chapter of Revelations closed, not with an ending, but with the promise of new beginnings, of love, unity, and the unwavering light of hope in the times of darkness. Chapter 9. Dawn's Light. In the aftermath of the ritual, as the first rays of dawn streaked across the sky, painting the village of Ardmore in hues of gold and crimson, a sense of peace settled over the land. The lush fields, once withered and dying, began to stir as if awakening from a long slumber. Dew shimmered on the leaves, reflecting the newfound harmony between the village and the fairy realm. Sarah McCrory stood at the edge of the stone circle, her heart a tumult of emotions as she grappled with the revelations of the night. The fairy's words, speaking of love and sacrifice as the keys to unity, echoed in her mind, intertwining with her thoughts of James and the future that now seemed possible. The depth of her connection to the fairy realm revealed through her lineage and the ancestral fairy's appearance, weighed heavily upon her. It was a bond that offered both strength and responsibility, a double-edged sword that Sarah now wielded with a mixture of awe and trepidation. As the village stirred to life, whispers of the ritual's success spread like wildfire. The villagers, once skeptical of Sarah's connection to the Cid and wary of the outsider, James, now looked upon them with newfound respect. The healing of their land, evidenced by the vibrant resurgence of their crops and livestock, was a sign they could not ignore. Alfie and Clodagh, energized by the night's events and the visible signs of recovery, ran through the village, laughter filling the air as they shared tales of the shimmering fairy and the magic that enveloped their mother. Their innocence and joy served as a beacon of hope, a reminder that the future was a canvas yet unpainted, filled with possibilities. James, standing beside Sarah, watched the village come alive with a sense of awe. The skepticism that once defined his worldview had been shattered, replaced by a deep-seated belief in the magic that intertwined their lives. Inspired by the events, he proposed an idea that melded his newfound understanding with his academic pursuits. Why not document our experiences, the rituals of the village, and the lore of the fairies, he suggested, his voice tinged with excitement. We could share it with the world, bridging the gap between the mystical and the modern, preserving these traditions before they fade into the realm of myth. Sarah considered his words, the dawn's light casting a radiant glow upon her features. The idea of opening their world to the outside was daunting, yet the prospect of preserving their heritage for future generations held a certain allure. Together, they envisioned a project that would encapsulate the essence of Ardmore, a testament to their trials, their love, and the enduring magic of the land. As the day progressed, Sarah and James outlined their plans, discussing how to approach the elders for their wisdom and the villagers for their stories. They imagined a book, a compilation of Ardmore's history and its intricate ties to the fairy realm, in a bridge between worlds that would serve as a beacon for those seeking to reconnect with the mystical. In the heart of the village, amidst the revitalized beauty of their land, Sarah and James, Clodagh and Alfie, stood as a testament to the power of faith, love, and unity. The challenges they had faced, the choices Sarah had made, had woven a new thread into the fabric of their lives, intertwining their destinies in ways they could never have imagined. As the sun reached its zenith, casting a warm golden light over Ardmore, Sarah felt a surge of gratitude and resolve. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but armed with the love of her family and the knowledge of her ancestral connection, she was ready to face whatever the future held. Together, they would navigate the waters of change, guiding their village into a new era where the whispers of the past and the promises of the future danced in harmony. Dawn's light closed not just as a chapter in their lives, but as the beginning of a new adventure, a journey of discovery, preservation, and the eternal dance between the mystical and the mortal. In Ardmore, under the watchful eyes of the sea and the nurturing gaze of Sarah McCrory, the whispers through time continued, an unending song of love, legacy, and the magic that binds us all. Chapter 10. Weaving New Threads. As autumn's fire began to weave its golden threads through the tapestry of Ardmore, the village found itself on the precipice of change once more. This time, however, the transformation sprang not from the whispers of the Sidhe, but from the hearts and minds of its people, inspired by an idea that had taken root in the fertile ground between tradition and novelty. Sarah McCrory and James O'Connor, at the heart of this gradual metamorphosis, navigated the currents of their relationship amidst the backdrop of their community's renaissance. The project proposed by James, grounded in the desire to bridge the mystical with the modern, had begun to take shape. Word of Ardmore's unique culture and its intimate ties with the fairy realm, emboldened by the narrative of harmony and healing, started to draw the curious, the scholarly, and those seeking the wonder that had been lost in the rush towards industrialization. The village, under Sarah's hesitant but hopeful guidance, opened itself like a bloom to the sun, welcoming visitors with a mix of pride and reserved curiosity. Sarah, whose life had been deeply interwoven with the land and its hidden inhabitants, found herself standing at the confluence of her past and the unwritten chapters of her future with James. Their love, a bond forged in the crucible of shared trials and deep respect for each other's worlds, had grown in depth and complexity. Yet it was not without its challenges. The visibility Sarah had long shied away from now cast her and her children into a spotlight they were learning to navigate. Clodagh and Alfie, embodiments of the merging of worlds, adapted with the resilience of youth. Clodagh took to the strangers with an openness that surprised Sarah, her questions and stories enchanting those who had come seeking the magic they feared was only myth. Alfie, more reserved, watched from the sidelines, his connection to the fairy realm undimmed, but becoming more personal, something not always shared but deeply felt. The task of documenting Ardmore's stories, its folklore, and the personal testimonies of its inhabitants became a communal endeavor. James, with his scholarly rigor, approached the project with a newfound reverence for the beliefs he once questioned. The villagers, in turn, grew to see him not as an outsider, but as a chronicator of their heritage. Together, they painted a vivid portrait of a world where the veil was thin, where respect for the land and its unseen guardians wove through the daily fabric of their lives. As autumn gave way to the stark beauty of winter, the book, a collection of tales, histories, and reflections on the coexistence with the fairy realm, began to take form. It was a testament to the village's journey, a narrative that spoke of reconciliation between the past and the present, and the hopeful gaze towards the future. Sarah, in this chapter of her life, found a balance she once believed impossible. The love she shared with James, rooted in understanding and enriched by their shared experiences, offered a foundation upon which they could build a life together. Her children, Clodagh and Alfie, thrived, embodying the potential for harmony between the mystical and the mundane. Yet, as winter's frost painted Ardmore in hues of silence and introspection, Sarah knew the dance between these worlds was far from over. The book project, soon to be shared beyond the stone walls and rolling hills of their home, would invite new challenges, new visitors, and new opportunities for growth. But amidst this future of unknowns, one truth held steady: the power of love, family, and community to navigate the whispers through time. In the closing moments of this chapter, as Sarah stood beside James, watching Clodagh lead a group of visitors on a walk through the fields, with Alfie perched on his shoulders, a sense of contentment settled in her heart. They were weaving new threads into the fabric of Ardmore's story, a rich tapestry that spoke of unity, respect, and the timeless magic that binds us all. Chapter 11. Echoes of Change. In the soft embrace of twilight that draped itself across Ardmore, a village reborn from the whispers of the past and the promise of the future, Sarah McCrory stood at the threshold of her cottage. The change in the air was palpable, a blend of ancient magic and newfound hope that had woven through the fabric of her life and that of the village. The success of the ritual, the unity it had inspired within Ardmore, and the deepening bond between her and James had ushered in a period of reflective tranquility. As the last rays of the sun kissed the rolling hills goodbye, Sarah pondered the personal transformations she and her children had undergone. Clodagh's relentless curiosity and Alfie's quiet wisdom had not just been a source of light in their journey. They had become the guiding stars for Sarah, illuminating paths she had once thought forever shrouded in shadow. The project that had sprung from James's proposal, a book encapsulating the essence of Ardmore and the mystical tapestry that bound it, was nearing its completion. With each story shared, each ritual recorded, Sarah felt as if they were not merely preserving tradition, but breathing life into a new era where the mystical and the modern danced in harmony. Yet, even amidst these sweeping changes, a gentle unease stirred within her heart. The fairies, whose guidance had both challenged and comforted her through the years, had grown silent. This absence, unusual and unexplained, cast a thin veil of worry over Sarah's newfound peace. It was during one such twilight musing that the air around her shimmered softly, the familiar yet always startling sign of the fairies' presence. A small breeze, carrying the scent of heather and the sea, swirled around her, coalescing into a whisper that seemed to dance with the leaving light. The weave of time yields yet more threads, Sarah McCrory. The dance continues, and thy role within it evolves still. The message, cryptic as ever, sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. The fairies' words hinted at future adventures, at roles yet to be embraced fully, both alarming and exhilarating in their implications. As the whisper faded, leaving a charged silence in its wake, Sarah felt the weight of expectation and the thrill of the unknown settle upon her shoulders. Inside, the cottage was alight with the warmth of the hearth and the laughter of her children. Clodagh, now more than ever a bridge between her mother and James, shared tales of the day with animated gestures. Alfie, seated quietly beside James, looked up with a smile that spoke volumes of the wisdom beyond his years. Their simple presence, a balm to the complexity of her thoughts, reminded Sarah of the strength found in love and family. James, sensing her thoughtful return, offered a supportive smile, his hand finding hers, a silent promise of unity. In his eyes, Sarah saw not only the love that had blossomed between them, but also the shared resolve to face whatever the future held. Together, they had navigated the unseen war, the night of revelations, and now stood on the cusp of a new chapter, unwritten but filled with potential. As the night deepened, wrapping Ardmore in a blanket of stars, Sarah contemplated the fairies' message. Change was indeed afoot, and with it, the opportunity to deepen her connection to both the mystical and the mundane. The balance she had long sought for her village, her family, and within herself seemed not a destination but a journey, one that continued to unfold with each whisper through time. In her heart, Sarah understood that the echoes of change were not ripples of uncertainty, but waves of possibility. With Clodagh's wonder, Alfie's insight, and James's companionship, she was ready to embrace the future, to weave new threads into the ancient tapestry of Ardmore. Chapter 11, Echoes of Change, thus closes not with the end of a tale, but with the promise of continued adventure. Sarah's journey, emblematic of the dance between the mystical and the mortal, the personal and the universal, signals the eternal nature of growth, love, and the delicate balance that sustains the world of Ardmore. In the quiet of the night, Sarah McCrory stood as a guardian of the past and a herald of the future, her story a whisper echoing through the fabric of time, weaving a legacy of magic, courage, and connection for generations to come. Chapter 12, The Unending Song. In the heart of the Irish countryside, where the hills whispered ancient secrets and the wind carried tales of old, the village of Ardmore prepared to herald a new era. The air, vibrant with anticipation, buzzed as the villagers, adorned in their finest, gathered in the town square, a space that had witnessed centuries of tradition and change. At the center stood Sarah McCrory, her wild red hair tamed into braids that crowned her head like a halo, her green dress swaying gently in the summer breeze. Beside her, James O'Connor, the scholar from Dublin who had found home and heart in Ardmore, clasped her hand tightly. Their eyes, bright with emotion, scanned the crowd, landing on Clodagh and Alfie, who buzzed with excitement among their friends. Today was not just a celebration of Ardmore's rich heritage and its dance with the mystical, but also a testament to the love, family, and community that had triumphed over the shadows of prophecy. The day's festivities began with the ancient melody of a fiddle, its notes rising above the assembly, weaving through the air with a magic of its own. Dancers took to the square, their steps a homage to the generations that had danced before them, their movements a bridge between the past and the present. As the music swelled, the villagers joined in, their laughter and cheers a chorus that echoed through the hills. Sarah, watching the celebration unfold, felt a surge of emotions. The trials they had endured, the unity they had forged, all led to this moment, a moment of unbridled joy and hopeful beginnings. As she looked at James, whose arrival had marked the start of change, she realized that love was indeed the most potent magic, binding their worlds with warmth and light. The feast that followed was a spread of Ardmore's finest, freshly baked bread, cheeses, and stews that warmed the soul. Tales of fairy encounters and blessings were shared, their narratives intertwining with the clinking of glasses and the contented murmurs of the villagers. It was a celebration not just of the harvest, but of life itself, enriched by the presence of those seen and unseen. As twilight approached, casting a golden glow over the village, Sarah gathered her family and friends. Standing by the ancient oak that had witnessed the whispers of time, she addressed the gathering. Her voice, strong and clear, spoke of gratitude for the journey they had shared, for the lessons learned, and for the love that had blossomed in the most unexpected of places. James, taking the floor, shared his plans to document Ardmore's unique blend of tradition and the mystical, ensuring that the whispers through time would echo in hearts far beyond their village. His words, met with nods and smiles, were a promise to honor the past while embracing the future. As the celebration wound down, Sarah, James, Clodagh, and Alfie ventured to the edge of the village, where the land kissed the sky and the stars whispered greetings to those who dared to dream. Hand in hand, they looked out over Ardmore, their hearts filled with a sense of completion and the anticipation of adventures yet to come. In that moment, under the canopy of the universe, the fabric of their lives, woven with courage, love, and the magic of belief, glittered like a tapestry of endless possibilities. The unending song of Ardmore, with its melodies of the mystical and the mundane, continued to play, a harmony that would resonate through the ages. And so, Whispers Through Time concludes not with a closing chapter, but with the opening of a new book, its pages blank and waiting for the stories yet to unfold. In Ardmore, where the veil between worlds is thin and love is the truest magic, the dance between the mystical and the mortal waltzes on, eternal and ever-changing, guided by the enduring pillars of family, community, and the unbreakable bonds that define them. Thank you for listening to my ghostwriter. I hope you enjoyed the book. Please leave a review on Amazon.